Greetings from the forest of winter. We got snow here and it is looking beautiful. It's a good time to start making some winter terrain. I made this simple snow terrain together with my friend Jacob. We started this project by cutting ourselves a suitable piece of foam. This is XPS-foam used for insulating houses. Check out the links in the descriptions for more info. First we planned a bit. A path leads up here to the top, where we'll place some structures, stones and trees. I started by cutting out the path using my professional crafting knife. When doing these cuts, you don't need to be worried about messy cuts, as all of this will be covered later. Do worry about your fingers, they are quite useful. After a while of cutting, it should look something like this. Here is a miniature for scale. We then cut away material from this side in order to create a slope here. Okay, this is how we will build this. Some stone formations scattered around made from bark. And a stone floor surrounded by ruined pillars. Just a rough plan. We started with the stone floor. We cut out a thin piece for the floor and then carved in simple stones with a pencil. After that, we made the usual stone textures with a ball of aluminum foil. There we go. Since most of the surfaces will be covered with snow later, we don't really have to care at all. We just glued in the floor using hot glue and we filled all the gaps using foam scraps. Actually, we didn't fill much at all. Part of the experiment is to see if the snow can cover all of this. Here we have the stone pillars made in the same way as the floor. We glued these around the floor, one for each corner. Yeah, this one fits perfectly. At this point, we were convinced this will be epic. Next, we glued in a few bricks of foam around some of the pillars. This is good just to get a more ruined look and to add some cover for the miniatures. These were also textured using the aluminum foil. Then we poked in a few simple dead trees, just twigs assembled together using hot glue. Moving on to the stones. We used bark and pebbles for this. First we made a diagonal cut for most of the bark bits, and then glued them onto the piece by using leftover XPS-foam bits as support. Then the pebbles. We just placed these around wherever we felt like it would be good. We also ran out of hot glue just for the purpose of showing you that PVA glue also works well for this. This still looks kind of like a cake decorated by toddlers. Fear not, we'll add more sand and rubble flocking. Before the flocking, we quickly shaped the soon-to-be rocky cliffs using knives. We just ripped out a bit to create an uneven surface. Okay, we'll use my chopped up bark flocking. First, we applied lots of PVA glue. We'll cover the cliff sides first. After the PVA glue was spread out nicely, we sprinkled on the bark choppings. As always, sand is also good for this, but won't smell as good. The flat surfaces will also be covered with flocking, but of smaller grain size, so we chopped up some more. If you do this, keep in mind, the different grain sizes are easily separated by shaking. We then covered the rest of the surfaces with glue. Yeah, this build is gonna be like 50% PVA glue. Just wait for the snow. Okay, we applied the fine bark choppings and let this dry for a while. As you can see here, we didn't cover exactly everything. We will still add snow later, so bald spots will not be judged. We then put the cake in the oven. The glue dries a bit faster if it's warm. To seal in the flock, we made a base coat from roof paint, PVA glue, and a bit of week old painting water. Perfect. Usually regular acrylic craft paints are good. I just found this bucket of paint and thought I'd give it a try. Again, since there will be a lot of snow, not all crevices need to be fully painted. We made sure to spread it out well, leaving a thin coat that doesn't take ages to dry. Then we painted the stonework with black, the platform, pillars and the bricks. The rocks were also painted with a dark blue. It will be a bit less blue when the paint dries. The base coating is done. Time to paint. We overbrushed the stone platform with grey, then painted the pillars, cliff sides and stones with the same grey. Moving on to the flat surfaces, we overbrushed the ground with brown first. This paint job is looking a bit glossy. Perhaps the roof paint should go on the roof instead, but we'll see. Then we covered the trees with brown, with a too large brush. Dry brushing. We dry brushed everything except the trees with a tan. This will be a super simple paint job. Here the camera freaks out due to the slight gloss, but the dry brushing on the stonework was captured well. After a while, we thought this needs some washes. First a dark brown wash, a bit everywhere. The wash darkens cracks and crevices, effectively adding depth to the piece. Also, the brown adds some color to the piece. On some parts you can just let it flow down naturally. That should look good. Next we made a bluish wash. The wash is just mixed from paints, water and a few drops of detergent, easy to make at home. The glossy issue is also fixed now. I placed the lights straight above the camera. Here the blue wash adds a bit of much needed color variations to the rocks. This is basically reverse dry brushing, but don't quote me on that one. Well, this looks better now. We dry brushed the trees before consulting the Forsaken Snow schematics. We didn't focus too much on the trees. Time to make the snow. It is made from baking soda, PVA glue, white paint and some water. First we added baking soda, a spoonful for the 2 first batches and 2 spoonfuls for the 3rd batch. We will try 3 different batches to increase the floof factor of the snow. Next we added PVA glue, roughly 1 tablespoon in volume. Well, that's not so scientific. Take that, Americans. I'll make a tutorial with exact imperial units later, perhaps when I make the base for Thoughtslayer Santa. Good, now the white paint. Just an arbitrary amount equal to 1 generous tablespoon. Then we added water into the 1st and 3rd batch, and proceeded by mixing to see what happens. It seemed that all batches needed more baking soda. Well, screw the scientific approach, we just kept adding soda to the water-free batch. until it was fluffy, as seen in here. As I said, more of this snow in an upcoming episode. Until then, you can just experiment and have fun. Next up, the fun part. We applied the fluffy snow paste using a brush. This stuff can be used to create snow formations with quite impressive volume. At first, we weren't quite sure how this will turn out, but we just kept adding more. We added it on the stones and trees as well. Here you can see the snow has great coverage. We were able to hide all of our mistakes. We applied varying coverage over the entire piece, not forgetting the top of the pillars, of course. After some painting and mixing of more snow stuff, we ended up with a nice snow-covered piece.
The pentagram is missing! Paint it!
We began by painting rough outlines of the pentagram using dark bloody red, mixed from these paints and diluted in a bit of water. Our freehand sucks, but we managed. We painted the symbol with red in the middle, and worked with the diluted dark red to make the outer edges a bit darker. Okay, this snow seems to be really solid. When it dries, more texture is revealed. Will the heroes be in time to stop Satan Claus from finishing the dreaded chaos ritual? Or will darkness conquer? And will you join the path of crafting? Do that right now by subscribing to Bard's Craft, and I'll show you how to craft more simple terrain and miniatures.